Mayor Pro Tem Witz. So we'll move on. We have no business under tonight's consent agenda. Item number 6, old business public hearing. There is no public hearing or old business, so that moves us to new business, item number 7. Under new business, A is mayor's nomination and council's confirmation of interim city manager. As you all know, Mr. Treadway's last day was this past Friday, so we are currently without a city manager. We have hired the search firm Snellville Management, the Snellville Group, Snellville Management, to conduct a city manager search for us. Based on their timeline, we should have candidates able to interview and make a selection sometime in late May or early June. But at this point in time, the city does need a city manager, so I plan on making a nomination for an interim city manager. But before I do that, I'd like to ask our legal counsel, Mr. Talent, for an opinion what happens if we have no city manager.
Mayor, in the event that there is no city manager, you as the mayor are the CEO of the city. You are, of course, prohibited from being both the city manager and the mayor. However, you are given the charge under the city's code, and not its charter, but under its code, of ensuring that all administrative affairs of the city are carried out faithfully. The way that I would interpret that is that while each of the departments essentially would be running itself without a city manager in place, the responsibility would fall to you to make sure that each of the departments was running faithfully in compliance with its administrative duties that each of them owes to the city. Of course, under your code, under the charter, the mayor and all members of council are not allowed to have direct supervisory roles vis-a-vis the employees and other officials of the city. That has to be done through the position of a city manager. But I do believe that to some extent the responsibility to make sure that those duties continue to be carried out does fall to you, Mayor.
And the advisory roles, that does not apply to the positions that the mayor has direct hiring authority over, is that?
That is correct. There will continue to be direct supervisory roles with respect to both your city attorney and your city clerk.
So with that, I think it's obvious that the city needs an interim city manager. Being mayor is part-time and acting in any additional capacity is not something that that I by any means want to entertain. I'm happy to do what I need to do, but I do think that we need an interim city manager, and we need one as soon as possible. In the past, when we first learned of Mr. Treadway's pending resignation, and going back to Tennessee, I brought up the potential nomination of our police chief. I know that was communicated out to the public quite a bit, and it was something that we postponed because we had decided we wanted Mr. Treadway to serve out his 60 days. Mr. Treadway has served his 60 days notice, and I believe that the police chief, Chief Whitehead, is the best candidate at this point in time for an interim city manager. By nominating the chief, we will not have to incur additional expenses of paying an outside interim city manager. That could run the city anywhere from $12,000 to $20,000 or up for paying somebody to come in. We are only going to need an interim city manager if the search goes as planned for the next 60 days. And so the chief is already someone that is familiar with our city. He currently supervises about 60% of our staff. And so he can step in immediately, and he can do it on the short term without having to come up to speed or anything of that nature. So I would like to place the nomination of the Chief Roy Whitehead, to be our interim city manager. I know there were concerns of whether the chief actually was interested in the position and would accept the nomination. So before we have any vote, I'd like to call the chief up to the podium and see if he would accept the nomination of interim city manager if approved.
Certainly I'm willing to do anything to help this city move forward, and not just the employees, but the citizens of this community. So temporary capacity, I'd be glad to do that. And I'd work as many hours a day as necessary to make sure both jobs were adequately covered.
Are there any questions for the chief?
Chief, what do you envision to be the biggest challenge or speed bump to be able to manage the administration staff at City Hall and the police department?
Well, basically, I view that an interim is just a placeholder to make sure everything operates and functions on a day-to-day basis without unilaterally making any changes. I would bring any changes to council for them to make those ultimate decisions were that to take place. I wouldn't step in and make changes. I think that it's trying to basically keep the status quo for the employees until our new city manager, professional city manager, is on board.
Chief, you're the second longest serving department head in the city, is that right?
I believe that's correct.
And you have the highest, I guess, educational background.
I'm not sure what everybody else's is, but
Thank you, Chief. I didn't mean to put you on. Any other questions for the chief?
The police department would not suffer in any way, shape, or form.
absolutely not. As I said, I'd put in all the hours necessary to take care of both of them. But we have people in place to assist. But that's my job. Been my job my entire career is to set priorities, and that definitely would be one that would be maintained.
Would you put somebody in an acting position?
Technically, no. I mean, we have that. We have a hierarchy within the police department that manages things day to day when I'm not present anyway, and that would continue.
Thank you.
Any additional questions for the chief? Seeing none, I will entertain a motion to approve the nomination of Chief Roy Whitehead as our interim city manager.
Mayor, I'd like to make a motion to nominate Chief Whitehead for the interim city manager.
There's a motion. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Councilwoman Kraus. Is there any discussion on this?
Mayor, if I may, I think all of us know Chief Whitehead, and you know the job that he's capable of doing. In fact, running the third largest city in Gwinnett County's police department, we as council know what kind of reports we receive from the chief and from the police department. I think chief is capable of looking at both ends, and the fact that the city hall is about 100 yards away from the police department, I don't see any problem from him getting to walk over there, getting the communications necessary to be able to get information done. His management capability, his management style, and his ability to do this, I think it's beyond many, and I think Chief is capable to do that. And I would definitely like to see council approve Chief Whitehead as an interim city manager, so we can get the city's business without any delay.
Thank you, Councilman Saval. Any further comment? Councilman Howard?
Well. Chief Whitehead, I have the utmost respect for you. When this came up the last time, you and I had a conversation. And while this may be hard to hear, at that time, I would not support the chief as an interim. At the time, we didn't need it. Tonight, it's my feeling, and this has absolutely nothing with the praise and accolades that I'll heap on our chief and our police department. What it has to do with is that my feeling that the staff here at this city for the next 60 days can do the job they were hired to do and do it extremely well without putting anybody in a position of having to make a decision like this. I don't think the council of the chief goes away if he's not the interim city manager. I think the council of the chief has been in this city for the years he's been here. And correct me if I'm wrong, Chief, I don't think that goes away, does it? And so I just believe that the city staff, for the next 60 days, 45 days, whatever it is, can pull together, get this city running the same way it's running right this moment, and not miss a beat, and not put anybody in an awkward position to have to do this. And again, let me reiterate it one more time. It has nothing to do with the capability of our chief of police. He is capable, no question. I do not see a need for it. I think our staff can do what they need to do and do it well.
Any further comments from council?
I have to agree with Councilman Howard. There's nobody better than Chief Whitehead in what he does and just his presence in the city, his help wherever it's needed. My chief concern is kind of a perfect storm situation of what could happen. Maybe nothing happens. But I would hate to see anybody compromised, especially the chief, because he was given too much to do, more than one person can do, with a situation arising and then having everybody second guess, well, what would have happened if he hadn't been doing both jobs? If there was a police action required, what would have this happened? What would have that happened? And we all know that Monday morning quarterbacking always occurs. And the last thing I want to do is see the chief in a situation where he's being questioned and he's being doubted when there's absolutely no fault that lies with him. But people will do that, and I really would not want to see that. And I have to agree that the city can run. We have good people in place, and I think they need to be able to show what they can do, and I think they'll do that.
Thank you, Councilman. Any further comment?
Yes, I would. Chief, I apologize you're put in this position. I really do. I think this is very, very, very unfair to you. There's not another person in this city who's more capable of being our interim city manager than you are. No one. But I have a problem with hearing about this at 6:30 this evening, 1 hour before the vote, when we knew this was going to happen for 2 weeks. I submitted a name. I got a no. No more correspondence from that point till 6:30 tonight, when I was told who was going to be the interim nominee. One of the faults with our form of government here in Snellville is the fact that the mayor nominates and the city council affirms, which means that it makes no difference to the other members of council who they think would make a good interim or any input from them whatsoever. The only person who can make a nomination is the mayor. So many times we're put in a position where, because we know there's someone who's we feel more, and then certainly not in this case, but in cases in the past where we thought there were people who were more qualified who would never get nominated because the only one person could nominate them, and we didn't agree with the nominee, makes us look like we're trying to be obstructionists. We're not. We have no input. When that name comes out, and like tonight, that could be 60 minutes before we're supposed to vote on it, then we're supposed to just roll along and do whatever we're supposed to do. I'm sorry. That's not the way government works. We certainly could have discussed this. I'm always open for discussion. I tried to discuss with the mayor. I sent her a person who I thought was qualified. I got a no, and I've not heard a thing about it. This council needs to start communicating. The mayor needs to start communicating with the council, and let's talk about these things to get them worked out, so that when we get up here, we don't put good men like the chief in a situation he's put in tonight. I have no problem with the chief being the interim manager, but I want to talk to the mayor about it, and I want to talk to the chief about it before I make a vote. I wasn't given that opportunity. I wasn't even given the opportunity of knowing the name. So until that happens, it has nothing to do with the chief. I trust the chief with my life, and we do on a daily basis. I cannot tell you how much esteem I have for chief. But this ain't about the chief. This is about the way the city is being run currently and the corrections that need to be made so that they can run the right way.
couple of corrections. Mayor Pro Tem Witz did send an email with a name that we had already previously discussed in an exec session, and in that executive session, I gave my reasons as to why I would not support that nominee. I communicated that in the email that I stood by the reasons I gave in an exec session, and there was no further communication on this topic because we were advised by our city attorney that we needed to tread lightly under the existing open meetings law and discussing this via email with all the mayors and council. The chief has always been my #1 choice for interim city manager. I think I made that clear from the day that the week or shortly thereafter that we learned of Mr. Treadway's resignation and his 60 days of notice. I think that what Mayor Pro Tem Witz has said tonight is like someone who is not getting what they want, but instead of what's doing for the good of the city, they're trying to make a point that is going to hurt the betterment of the city. The city is a business. It is a corporation. If you look at our charter, we are a corporation, and the mayor is the chief executive officer of that corporation, but we need someone in place to oversee the day-to-day operations, and that is what a city manager does. Mayor Pro Tem Witz has admitted that we need an interim city manager, and he's admitted that the chief is the perfect selection for that. But to punish me or to make a point against me, he is going to refuse to vote for the chief tonight, and I think that that is a wrong decision. Regardless of what our personal differences are, you need to be able to put those aside and do what's right for the city. And what's right for the city today, when we stand without any city manager, is to make the chief, who we've all agreed will be an excellent interim city manager, as our city manager nominee tonight. So with that, I will open the floor to public comments. If there's anyone in the public that would like to say anything for or against the chief's nomination as interim city manager, please come forward, state your name and address for the record.
Mary Morrison. I live at 1655 Summit View Way here in Snellville. Nothing against any of you guys, but apparently you need somebody because you can't even come up with a 60-day idea here. So you do need a babysitter of some sort. I hate to say it, that's just crazy. Y'all sound like my kids at home, just dee-dee-dee-dee-dee-dee-dee-dee. That's wrong. If you can't come up with one little simple decision to get you through the next 60 days, maybe we don't have the right panel up here. Thank you.
Any other public comment on this matter, either for or against the nomination of Chief Whitehead? Seeing no further public comment, I will call the question. All those in favor of the nomination of Chief Whitehead?
Can I make a motion, Mayor?
Yes.
I'd like to make a motion to lay this on the table until after tonight's executive meeting.
Executive session?
Yes.
There is a motion. Is there a second?
Second.
Okay, there is a second. It's not debatable, so all those in favor signify by raising your right hand. 6 in favor, all those opposed, 0 opposed. So we will adjourn into an executive session and we will come back out for a vote. At this time, do I have a motion to go into an executive session?
Yes.
We have a motion to go in executive session to discuss pursuant to during the public hearing of the mayor and city council of Snellville, Georgia, Mayor Couts announced certain matters should be discussed in a closed session of the meeting. Asked council to advise the city with respect to closing the meeting. City Attorney Kevin Talon advised the city the following reasons to close the meeting. Upon the appointment, employment, compensation, hiring, disciplinary action, dismissal, or periodic evaluation or rating of a public officer or employee, which is excluded pursuant to OCGA Section 50-14-3, subsection 6, and to discuss future acquisition of real estate. Upon a motion of Councilmember Kraus, seconded by Councilmember Emmanuel, the meeting was closed with the following council members and the mayor present and voting. Mayor Couts, yes. Councilman Emmanuel, Councilman Howard, Councilwoman Kraus,
Yes.
Councilman Sabah,
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Witz. We will adjourn and go into exec session. I do expect that there will be action following that. We still have an agenda, so if you want to stay to see what comes about that executive session, please, we will be in adjournment until then, though. Okay, we're going to reconvene the meeting of the mayor, regular business and public hearing of the mayor and council. The time is 8:45. All members are present. We are on agenda item 7, new business, sub-item A, mayor's nomination, council's confirmation of interim city manager. We have a pending motion to approve the nomination of Chief Roy Whitehead as interim city manager. Is there any further discussion on that motion? Seeing none, I will call the question. All those in favor of the confirmation of Chief Whitehead as interim city manager signify by raising your right hand. That's 6-0. All those opposed, 0 opposed. Congratulations or good luck, Chief. Moving on to item number B,